Welcome back. Today we are going to take a look at the birth of Chinese philosophy. And to do that, we are going to look at the three schools of thought that shaped ancient China. These three schools of thought were more secular than they were religious, meaning they were the philosophy of politics. Rulers often used these philosophies or these schools of thought to help shape their rule, and they also served as universal rules for human conduct. The three schools of thought are Confucianism, Taoism, and legalism. The first school of thought that we are going to take a look at is Confucianism. Confucianism was started by a man named Confuci, who we become known as Confucius. Confucius started out without the idea to develop a philosophy or have a large following. Instead, he simply traveled throughout China and just lectured on what he believed was the way to be successful. He talks about what he thought the Chinese government needed to do and how officials needed to act, and what the importance was for each Chinese citizen or individual in order to be successful. As Confucius traveled around and gave these lectures, he began to develop a following of students who continued to follow him around. And as he continued to lecture, these students began to write down his teachings or his lectures. After Confucius died, these students then compiled the teachings or the lectures that they had written down into a book that is called the Analects. In the Analects, we can now read the words of Confucius and focus on how his ideas and thoughts centered on duties and behavior, so that's how people should behave and what their duty was, and order and stability, how to create a successful China. Confucianism also believed in the three philosophies of family, respect for elders, and respect for ancestors. Family and familial respect were the centerpiece within Confucianism. One could not be successful if they did not honor their family and respect their elders and worship their ancestors. Confucianism also focused on gentlemanly conduct. Basically, that's how to be a good person, right? How to be a kind human. Confucius also preached about good government, how government needed to put their people first and satisfy the needs of the people over the needs and the wants of the ruler. Confucius also preached about a civil service system or a civil service test. This was where members of the government had to take an exam in order to be part of the government. This was to help reduce crime and corruption within the Chinese government and help focus the government on positivity. Confucianism has the most profound impact across China and is still largely practiced today. The next school of thought that we are going to take a look at is Taoism. Taoism can be spelled with either a D or a T, depending on where you are. It means the same thing. And Taoism is the way of nature. The founder of Taoism was a man named Lao Tzu. And Taoism is a political thought that cannot create peace or order. Instead, Taoism was more created as a religion or a way for one to find inner peace. It had less to do with the political and more to do with the individual. Taoism practices strict societal restrictions and a social control to adhere with nature. It's all about giving up the wants and the needs and the material things and embracing and becoming one with nature and the world around you and honoring that we come from nature. Within Taoism, in order to be happy, you should leave your materialistic world behind to give up your belongings, and you should revert back to nature. You should go back to one's natural state. And one should live simply and alone and spend their days meditating and in reflection and focusing on how to connect and be one with the world around you. Taoism believes in the least amount of government possible. In Taoism, the least amount of government control results in the happiest society because people are able to kind of give up their material world and really focus independently on the world around them. And that people are happiest when they are left alone, uneducated because then they cannot ask questions about why things are happening in the world around them, and they are materially satisfied. They are no longer continuing to want. The last school of thought is legalism. The founder of legalism was Han Feizi. And legalism is that the ruling class has power over the common people. Legalism focuses on a strong centralized government as opposed to feudalism, where people begin to share in the power. In China, legalism called for harsh punishment and unified thought. People were told what to think and when to think it, and if anybody questioned or asked why, they were severely punished. Legalism is a more pragmatic view of governing, meaning people in society were not intelligent enough to make decisions on their own. Therefore, they needed a strong government or somebody to tell them what to do. It was very authoritarian, and within legalism, rulers believed that human nature is evil. All humans were destined to be evil. Therefore, they needed strict discipline in order to prevent that evil from expanding and taking over. And education was not important in legalism. People did not need to learn about the world around them because that's what the government was for. They were there to tell people what to think and when to think it. For culture and ethics, we have a book of changes, and this was the kind of like how-to book on how to live an ethical life and live in harmony with the universe. It was kind of like a how to be a good person for dummies book. And ethics, philosophy, and common sense are needed to live a happy life. So in this book, it really kind of comprised a little bit of Confucianism, legalism, and Taoism into one as to how to be successful. Culture and ethics also has something that's called the yin and the yang. Many of you are probably familiar with yin and yang. Yin and yang is the balance that exists within the world. The yang is the white side of the circle that represents the male. The yang is considered to be strong and light and is represented in spring and summer. The yin, on the other hand, is the female side of the circle, and that is the black side. And the yin is considered to be weak and dark and represented in autumn and winter. In order for the world to have balance, there has to be a little bit of yin and a little bit of yang in each. If something or somebody is wholly yin or someone or something is wholly yang, there will create an imbalance in society and in life, and that will result in unhappiness. Okay, some quick review questions. Which school of thought was best revealed in the Analects, or which school of thought was written down in a book called the Analects? The answer is Confucianism. Remember that Confucius himself did not write the Analects. Instead, the Analects were written by students or followers of Confucius who wrote down his lectures. Question number 2. Believed the ways of nature were the best personal guide to life. That is Taoism. Remember, Taoism is the way of nature. Number 3. Believed people were naturally evil and needed harsh discipline to control. That's legalism, the authoritarian school of thought. The ruler Qin is best known for following this philosophy. That's going to be legalism. Respect for parents or elders ranks high among human loyalties. That is Confucianism. Familial respect is one of the most important aspects of Confucianism. The best kind of government is the one with the fewest rules and laws. That's Taoism. Taoism practices a hands-off government policy. Okay, we are at the end of the notes. What your summary is going to be is to just create a chart in which you fill in information about Confucianism, Taoism, legalism, and yin and yang.